I know I saw that. I appreciate the support pipelines hat. So I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I haven't laid eyes on you, and yeah, it's got to be a few years or whatever. We met down at Ferris Murphy office, grabbed
Yeah,
a coffee, and
yeah.
it just. So how did you make the connection with me and Dana? I can't remember that.
I just remember talking with Dana,
Yeah,
and he'd always talked about Gunner.
yeah.
And then one day you came across my LinkedIn feed,
Mm.
and you were advocating for mental health and men's mental health in the workplace. And I shot you a note and said, "Hey, man, I appreciate you and appreciate what you're putting out into the
Okay, it's
world."
coming back to me. Yeah,
And then somehow from there, like I
made the
hadn't pieced
connection.
it together yet, and I think I was talking with Dana, and I said
Okay.
Ferris Murphy, and I threw your name out there, and they
Okay.
said, "Well, that's Gunner's brother."
Yeah, no, I've been in touch with Dana off and on for sure. I mean, there's not many gunners kicking around
Yeah,
the industry for sure. He's such a, I think so highly of him, not just because he's my brother. I've had a chance to work around him, and
yeah,
he's the guy I look very up to in terms of, someone I want to see in leadership roles in this industry. Like he's a heart for the work and the guys and stuff, but he cares about the client, the paperwork, the compliant, he's like a very special guy.
right.
Yeah. So you said you got a chance to meet him, eh?
Yeah, I got to meet him this spring, and that was
Yeah.
the first time. So I see exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying.
So now you get all the grizzly bear jokes I made about him too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right on. No, I was there, Dust. I was there when Dana and Phil broke out. I'm still talking to Phil. We exchanged emails there a couple of days ago, but I remember they were just kids. This would be in the late 90s, early 2000s or something like that. And Dana and Phil showed up on the right of way, just up with right way forming. And yeah, and it's good. And both of them kept going.
Yeah,
It's just good, made me happy.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what do you want to talk about?
Well, like I said,
Why don't you tell us about yourself? Because not everyone knows who you are, Dustin.
yeah, sure. Well, I was born in small town Saskatchewan, born in Kerrobert.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate. Both my grandparents still operate family farms out in rural Saskatchewan. My uncle's taken over Henderson Farms.
I have to say, I've never heard of Corrobert until we did that Alberta Clipper project.
Oh,
That's
really?
the first time I heard of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's not much goes on there, but
Yeah.
born in the same hospital that my grandfather passed away in 40 some years later. So, but yeah, born in Saskatchewan. We moved to Alberta when I was 7.
Mhm.
My dad just didn't want to take over the family farm and wanted to seek something else and thought there was more. And we moved to Alberta to try to create a better future. And yeah, it's settled in Lacombe, actually.
Oh, what a beautiful little town.
Yeah, it's great. So we moved there when I was about 7, and I was there until I met a girl, as the story usually goes.
Well, they'll get you every time, Dustin. Every time they'll get you.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. I really enjoyed talking to you. I remember last time one of the conversations that sunk into me about you was you talked about family, and I have a soft spot for people like that. And I've been told Sweet Marie a couple of times, like, this is such a broad, sweeping statement, but I can tell a lot about a person, how they speak about their wives and their kids and stuff like that. You're loving and kind and all that kind of stuff. And that, yeah, you're in with me after that.
Yeah, well, we had quite a journey, so I have probably a different appreciation for it. My wife and we met when I was 23 years old. I was still living in Lacombe at the time, and yeah, we met, and it was one of those things right away. But we always knew we were going to have kids, but it wasn't an urgent thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we went to go have kids, it wasn't that easy for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went through years and years of fertility treatments to conceive.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very fortunate, conceived my oldest, Aubrey. She's 12 years old now. And then we thought, well, maybe that'll get things started and things will happen naturally from there. So we waited a few years and no luck. So we had to go through the process again. And we got my son, Jacob. He's 7.
Awesome.
And then that was it. We thought that was it. Doc said, hey, you guys don't have to worry about anything. You got better odds at winning the Lotto Max than you do at conceiving a child naturally. And 2 years later, my third was born. Hadley. So I always joke and say, you buy 2, you get 1 free. Yeah, right. So, but yeah, I think that, how hard we had to work to get them and the effort my wife put in and everything that she did, it's extra special, you know?
Well, there's never going to be a doubt in the kid's mind that they were wanted.
Yeah, that's
Like
for
you went out of your
sure.
way. I've gone through, I have a few friends that have gone through the fertility treatment program, and they said, it's not just the money. There's certainly an emotional price you pay to go along with that too, in terms of success and failure and trying again, stuff like that. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's wonderful. I know Sweet Marie and I, after we had 2 kids, same thing. Marie's like, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, we were so blessed, 2 healthy boys and stuff like that. And she's like, I'm not sure. Why don't we just wait and see? I'm like, okay, it's a big decision and stuff. Well, what do you think? So anyway, after a little Journey bird was born, we're like, we better fix this situation
before it gets out of hand.
Yeah, but again, I love kids, and even at work, I talk about it all the time about being a dad. And I have different kids that have worked in pipeline and construction, and I see a lot of these young guys. Like, I don't feel like an old guy, but I see a lot of these guys out there that are the same age as my kids, and I thought, I need you guys to look out for each other the same way I need somebody out in northern Saskatchewan right now to look out for my son.
Yeah,
because I'm not there to do it, and anyway, I got to talk about mental health just because I've been in it so long, and I see a lot of issues and challenges, and it's tough, Dust. Like, I'm sympathetic, and I've never gone down those dark roads a lot of people have, unfortunately. But I've been on enough jobs, people taking their lives and injuries and all this kind of stuff, and it's under the surface in our industry, and we've spent a lot of money in different programs, and unfortunately, statistics aren't bearing it out like we're having a good impact. So I don't know why that is. Like, what do you think?
I don't know why it is either, but I will say that even if it doesn't feel like your message is getting out there, it is. And I think me sitting across the table from you is a perfect example of that. I might have known your name, heard about you through the Gunner Dana connection, but we never connected. And it was when you put yourself out there and you started talking about it, it hit home with me. And it hit home with me to the point where I felt compelled to reach out to you and let you know that your message was reaching somebody at a time of need.
Wonderful.
So I often say, there's leading indicators and lagging indicators. And I think right now hopefully we're in this lag where the data just isn't reflecting all the positive things that have been changing in the last few years. And hopefully we see that catch up, because something needs to change out there. And that's why, again, thanks to guys like you putting yourselves out there, that's why I'm open to talk about it and comfortable in talking about my journey and how I got to where I'm at.
But if not for people like you opening up and talking about it, people might not have the courage to do the same. That's the crazy thing. We talk about all the time about normalizing the conversation, and it almost becomes cliche at some point. But I believe with all my heart, the more we talk about it, the more comfortable it'll get for guys. And I always tell people, especially the younger guys I've talked to lately, you don't have to wait till you're standing on the edge of a cliff to put up your hand. You know ahead of time you're struggling. Well, that may be the time to talk to people. But again, Dust, if you're the guy that people might look up to from a distance, and if by you talking here today, it might give people the courage to say, "Oh, Dust is a safe spot. Maybe I'll nudge him, send him a message, see if he'll pick up and stuff like that." So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
So tell me about, if you're comfortable as much as you're able, like, what your journey professionally is. This a mental health journey, or was it a personal thing, or like, how did you come to be sitting here today in front of me?
I think it all flows together, right?
Yeah.
You said something that all of a sudden you wake up and you got kids floating around the job site that are the same age as your kid. Yeah. And, I'm only 42 years old, but I'm getting to the point where it's like, hey, now I'm not the young up and comer anymore. Yeah. I'm in this unique spot in my career and in my life where I not only have an obligation, but, I have an opportunity to help the younger generation and those on my team and those around me. And, I think when I look at my journey, I don't know, mental health was never talked about, right? So we came from the farm, man. Like,
they're the toughest group of people. People talk about pipelines, bullshit. I think farmers are the toughest guys I've ever met.
Talk about that. I mean, my dad dropped out of high school to go work on the farm because that's where he was needed, and that was the priority back then. And so I think you kind of grow up in that environment, and then when we decided to have a family and we had some challenges with that, we made the decision that the best thing was going to be my wife's number one focus, was being a mom and building a family for us. So before we had kids, we made the decision she was going to stay at home.
Awesome.
So that she could put the time and effort into herself and her body and her mind and her spirit to go through that journey of, ultimately conceiving and carrying our children, which I'm so thankful I did. But I think in doing that, I lost my identity. I quickly became primary financier for the family.
It's a lot of pressure.
And I made that my identity for so long. And then you become a dad, and I didn't know how to transition that identity from being primary financial provider for the family to also being a husband and being present and being a father and figuring out what that looks like and what these tiny humans need from you. And so I think I spent a lot of years with my priorities wrong, going to work, thinking that going to work and making a living, that was my role. And I didn't pay enough attention to the other roles in my life and didn't have the balance right. And so then you wake up one day and you're struggling and you're not happy with the efforts that you've put into other areas of your life. And you start to beat yourself up on that a little bit. And that was ultimately what led me to have a long, hard look in the mirror and change.
But it's how do you get to that point? Because the reality is, Dust, bills got to get paid.
Yeah.
So, whether you call it society's put this role on a man to be the provider or not, or that's just a decision you made as a family. I mean, at the end of the day, good days, bad days, shit days, bills got to get paid, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you bridge that gap between making sure everyone's okay, but also making sure you're okay?
I think for me personally, it was looking in the mirror about my own expectations of myself were far more greater than what any employer ever put on me, what any boss ever put on me. The expectations I had of myself to get out there and perform and deliver were so much more than necessary. And I created a lot of unnecessary stress and pressure in my life by trying to reach a standard that, whether it was society and you're reaching for the nice vehicle or the nice house or the fairy tale life, whatever it is, I put way too much pressure on something that didn't actually mean that much to me. When really, at the end of the day, if you look at it, was I going above and beyond and doing the best I could in my career? Sure. Could I have dialed that back 30, 40% and still been a high achiever and a top performer and satisfied everybody's needs? Absolutely. And that 30 or 40% can go to the people that matter the most.
How much of it is a result of just simply getting older and more mature and more experienced in life? Because a lot of those reflections don't happen until later.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And I think you have to be at the time in your life that you're willing to face that and look in the mirror and evaluate all those situations and experiences that you've been through and challenge yourself. Like knowing what I know today, is that how I would have still conducted myself? Am I proud of that? And, I think for me, it's 100%, it's maturity, it's growth. It's looking yourself in the mirror and holding yourself accountable.
Like having gone through some of these personal, I'm going to say reflections or growth, how hard or how easy was it to be honest with some of these things with your partner and wife?
It's the hardest thing you could ever do. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to be honest with yourself, but it's hard to be honest with them too. It was a journey, and I'm fortunate my wife's got my back. She's there with me every step of the way. I love how you say Sweet Marie. I see that in all your communications. I mean, my wife's just a saint. I wouldn't be half the man I am today if it wasn't for her and her support and her love and encouragement. And but at the end of the day, just looking in the mirror, holding yourself accountable, and having those difficult reflections.
Well, some conversations I've had with a few people over the past years was to never, because this industry is so tough on relationships. A lot of it has to do with the time away, obviously. And I don't know how to necessarily bridge those gaps because every relationship has challenges, of course. But I always encourage people, try to never put yourself in a situation where you'll resent your partner or your kids. And what that means is make sure you're looking after yourself, and make sure you're not. It's good to put your family as possibly the number one priority in life. I don't have a problem with that. On the contrary, that's something I would even advocate, to have a successful family. But you have to not do it at the expense of yourself, because you will get to the point at some point where you're pissed off about your partner staying at home when you don't see all the challenges she has, or getting the kids, and next thing you know, you're fat.
Yeah.
So you gotta catch that ahead of time. And it sounds selfish in some respects, I suppose, but put yourself first. But it's not. It was so important to have a successful family,
I think that's probably been one of the biggest catalysts to the
Yeah.
change, is prioritizing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I used to think prioritizing yourself was selfish, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
And now I realize it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I have to prioritize myself in order to be there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, then I'm no good to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's mentally, physically, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent a lot of years, overweight, out of shape. And when I started this mental health journey, it was something that I knew I had to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started a morning exercise routine in the garage, and it was like 10 minutes. Cool. And it had nothing to do with the actual exercise or the routine itself. It had everything to do with getting up, holding myself accountable, making the steps to get out into the garage and to think about, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, it becomes a habit. And you're in the garage anyways, you might as well do something. Mm-hmm. And now I'm at the point where, I'm still just in the garage doing my own thing, but it's habitual. Mm-hmm. And it's 6 or 7 days a week. And when I miss a day, I miss it. I feel it. I crave it. I want it. Mm-hmm. I got to get back into it. Mm-hmm. So I think, self-care is a critical piece of the puzzle to this journey.
Has there been anyone in your life that you've kind of watched from a distance that has kind of encouraged you to try to focus on yourself and be better, like whether it's a parent or someone at work? Or...
Yeah, not to sound too cliche, but in this case, it's actually my wife. Okay. She went through about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I think, she gave up her body for 10 years to raise these kids and bear these kids and breastfeed these kids. And she got to the point one day where she's, I want to do something about this. And I watched her start to integrate healthy eating and an exercise routine into her life. And I watched a lot of positive changes in her physical health, mental health. And it was one of those moments where I could see my wife pulling away from me. Mm-hmm. When you're in a long-term relationship, everybody grows, everybody changes, but it's important to try to grow together.
For sure.
And there was a point where I was like, man, she's going down this path. And if I don't do something about this, she's going to leave me in the dust. Mm-hmm. Like, she's not going to want to be with this guy who's sitting there wallowing in self-pity while she's leaning into it and putting in the work. Mm-hmm. And so she actually... I've probably let her know, but not this openly, as to how much of a kick in the ass she gave me.
Oh my God. I would be so pleased if you would share that with her. Because I think even some I've shared on LinkedIn recently was, I've had so much good support in my own life, Dustin. I haven't, definitely a younger guy, for some reason I wasn't comfortable telling, which is insane now, of course. But as a younger guy, like, you look up to these people, or you're inspired or encouraged by. And for some reason, I don't know why you don't tell people that, because it would probably be nice for them to hear it. And when I've had this conversation about mentorship and leadership in other people's lives and journeys, and I always say, well, have you told them? And it's always kind of 50. Some people said, yeah, absolutely, I have. But other people was like, yeah, what, not really. I don't know why. And so that's why I asked, if you told your wife, like, maybe she would love to hear that,
I should probably be a little more direct about it and let her know how big of an impact it's had.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sounds like a card.
Yeah.
I don't know why we have struggled. There was a guy who always picked up the phone for me, one of the old boys, and always looked out for me and dragged me over to company, gave me a great job, which turned out to be a big professional springboard for me. And, I never really told him how much that meant to me. And then he ended up passing away, of course, as an old boy. And I've always kind of regretted that. So I've used that as an opportunity to say, hey, I need to be better about this.
Yeah.
Whenever someone does a kindness or I appreciate someone, I try to be better about. But it takes practice for sure.
Yeah, it does.
So who are some of the mentors that you've had in your own life? Again, personally or professionally?
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I mean, I've bounced around in my career a little bit, but I am fortunate that I've had, and you're making me think that I probably have a few phone calls to make to let those people know. There's a guy that I worked for. I think I started in 2010. Worked for him for 4 or 5 years when I was at Levitt Machinery. His name's Aaron Baumke, and Aaron challenged me, man. And I think at the time I was, still young, wet behind the ears. And every time he challenged me, it probably pissed me off or made me angry in the moment. But I think back today, and there are things that I do, there are ways that I coach, there are things that I coach that I know are instilled in me from him.
Oh, I love that.
And it's like, and I've thought about it a few times over the years, like, man, I got to make a phone call to him. I want him to know how much of an impact he had on me. And that it's not just on me anymore. I take that and I feel an obligation to give that to people on my team.
I love that.
And you got to pay it forward, right? Somebody took the time to mentor me and support me and coach me. And he was a family man. He was one of those guys who I always he had the balance right.
Yeah.
He had the career, he had the wife, he had the 3 daughters. And it was like, that's what I want to model,
I wonder, I think people don't always get that feedback. Maybe he's wondering, is he on the right path some days, I saw this, again, I'm going back about a month or two, and it was such a little thing just scrolling through Instagram. And it said, there's people out there on this subject that are, still think about you when you were kind to them, or they still use certain words that you use because they like them. And there's this funny little ripple effect, but there's no real feedback mechanism unless we create that. So that's why, like I said, I'm not as great as I could be, but I do try to be better about reaching out to people to say, hey, man, I was thinking about you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
This is so dumb. I use this word all the time. Just a little bit of funny, stupid vulnerability, and I usually get a laugh out of it and always appreciation. And it's does wonders for a person's relationship with whoever that is.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice when you get that phone call. It means a lot.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
And it's validation.
For sure.
For validation that you're putting good things out into the world.
Yeah, they're getting some feedback. I know I've had at least a few, many appreciation texts and emails. Hey, thanks for posting all these jobs. And I always say, you know what? Part of it's self-serving because I was that guy. I was that guy with the young family and the holy shit and oh my God, the house and then someone helped me and I always appreciate it. So now that I have been working pretty consistently now since 2018 or something, I can help other people because I know that sinking, awful, terrible feeling. So that's mostly why I do it. But I've had a few people reach out and say, hey, man, you shared something. I applied. I got that job. Thanks so much. I'm like,
right.
Hey,
that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, definitely charge me on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about? Work, personal?
Yeah, we talk about work for a minute. It's
because people don't know you. Like I said, if there's a chance I could help you work stuff, because that's in part also how we connected too.
Yeah,
because we're all working in the same industry. How did you get into the energy industry?
Yeah, well, I started in the equipment rental industry in 2009. So I was in Fort McMurray at the time. It started in 2009, and I was covering the area south of Fort McMurray, which down in 2009, it was just starting to pick up down in Conklin.
Okay.
They were starting to build Devon Jackfish 2 and Statoil Leismere. There was some pipeline going on for Christina Lake. And that was really my exposure into the energy industry, was working at the safety sites.
Who were you working with?
At the time, it was RSC Equipment Rental. They ended up getting acquired by United Rentals a little while later. And I ended up transitioning from them to Levitt Machinery, where I talked about Aaron. That was right around the time we discovered that we were going to need the fertility treatments. We were living in Fort Mac, and that service was available in Edmonton. So I was looking for a way to get closer to Edmonton to support that journey that my family was about to embark on. So, started in the equipment rental industry. That's what gave me exposure. It was all oil and gas, mostly upstream. And then, throughout my career in 2014, I ended up going to work for United Rentals, and I worked on the water management side of things. So I spent about 10, 11 years in the specialty water management space, dewatering, filtration, erosion and sediment control, river and creek diversions.
Okay.
Loved it. Had a passion for it. Didn't even know that I had a passion for it. It was just a great job opportunity at the time. I've always been kind of I would say, a numbers geek, a math geek behind the scenes. Had lots of opportunity to go for post-secondary education. I played football in high school and had a scholarship opportunity actually to St. Francis Xavier University out in Antigonish to go be an X-Men.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, played in the Senior Bowl here in 2001 in McMahon Stadium in Calgary and got scouted and got the opportunity to sit with them. And, you know, in hindsight, I wish I would have done something with it. At the time, I was this little small town Saskatchewan farm boy, was too timid to head all the way to the East Coast. And so when I got into the pump industry, I realized quickly that it catered to some of my passions and some of my strengths with numbers and math and science. And yeah, I had a blast with it. Loved it. You know, that's where I got heavily involved in the pipeline and the midstream construction sector over those number of years, helping with water management solutions or whatnot. And yeah, then last year I got approached for an opportunity by Herc Rentals to
where you are now.
Yeah, where I am today, to lead the national sales strategy for Herc across Canada. And I have a team of national account managers, and I have them divided up by vertical. So I have an energy guy, I have an industrial manufacturing, commercial, and general construction team members, and man, it's been awesome. I do miss the science behind the pump side a little bit and being a little bit more of I'd say boots on the ground kind of problem solver. But I love my role in the sense that I get to touch everybody in the company, close to 1,000 people across Canada. And I feel like it really gives me an opportunity to tell my story and to lead by example.
Where is your big personal growth in leadership? Like, where have you find you've grown the most in the past few years?
So when I left United in 2020, I went to a company called NCS Fluid Handling Systems for 4 years. And so I made the switch from a Fortune 500 company where every policy procedure, if you weren't sure how to do something, there was a policy or a procedure on it somewhere. You just had to get on the internet and find it.
Yeah.
To a small, privately owned company, 50 employees. You know, we were making policies, we were making procedures, we were developing and implementing systems. And when I went from one extreme to the other, it really caused me to grow. Like, it forced me to be in a position of, okay, it's not laid out for you. The roadmap is not there. You're actually driving the bus now. And you have to create the roadmap for these people because they're looking at you for it. And yeah, it was an experience, and it was a journey that absolutely challenged me and forced me to look in the mirror, hold myself accountable, and get better and grow every day. And I would say that private business environment created some opportunities to, be a part of different business associations and networks. There was a time where the company supported me in joining something called TEC. It's called the Executive Committee.
Oh, cool.
And TEC was a group of similar people in similar roles across the industry coming together on a monthly basis, more in a peer social network. I'm like, hey, man, these are problems I deal with every day.
Interesting.
How do you deal with them? And it put me into some unique situations like that where I got to learn from people outside of my industry, but in the same type of role, dealing with the same problems, same challenges every day, just a little different. And yeah, it was great to get some of that external perspective on things.
How do you get people to be honest and vulnerable in the context of sharing some of those problems? Because, often when you're dealing with peers in your industry and others, like, we don't want to share some of those things, not in the form of weakness, but just in the terms of business. Like, how do you bridge some of those gaps so you can be honest with each other?
My number one thing is just lead by example. And if you're honest and transparent and vulnerable and it's authentic, then more than likely you're going to get that in return.
I like that. I think people can feel that. authentic, because I've even watched some, even different videos on LinkedIn, which I like, and some of them just seem, for some reason, not that they're not authentic, but it doesn't come through. It seems very scripted and very
staged.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm sure it is. They do mean it. Maybe they couldn't find the words. They found the words elsewhere, and yeah, I don't know. People can feel that authenticity when dealing with people.
Yeah, I'm a sales leader. I'm a sales manager. I'm a salesman by heart, but I often describe it. I'm not a salesman. I'm a solutions provider.
Yeah.
Like I never find myself going in somewhere and trying to sell something to somebody that they don't need.
Mm-hmm.
We're there offering a service or a product on something that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just being your authentic self as to why you're not selling something that 10 other people haven't tried to sell them. You're going to buy from the person.
Oh, 100%. I believe in that very strongly.
Yeah. And the best way to do it is just be real.
Yeah.
And
it is a small industry, and you do hear the people getting burned every now and again. You're like, ooh, that's a dangerous game to start playing, fella, because the industry's small, and, we all, in some form or another, bounce from company to company, but you're still the same community, same people, same industry, same client, same everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What advice would you give to a young person coming into this industry, knowing, when I say the industry, I'm talking about the larger energy industry, whether it's oil and gas or forestry or mining or whatever, knowing all that you know in terms of challenges, what advice would you give to a young person considering a career in this industry?
Oh, that's a loaded question. The first thing that comes to mind is find a mentor.
I like that.
Find a mentor that is willing to put some time into mentoring you, but somebody that you can look up to, and that you want to idolize and try to model after. I've been fortunate to have a few of them throughout my career, and I think it goes a long ways. It really helps you, set the bar as to where you want to be, and in most cases, they'll help you on the roadmap to get there. And be vulnerable, be open, be honest, be transparent, share your fears, go for it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you're young coming into this industry, man, get the exposure, try anything once. Go out and get some experience in the mining industry and the pipeline industry and the downstream vertical. And I just think that, how can you find what you're truly passionate about and what really fires your flame if you're not, painting with a broad brush and giving everything a chance? Be open.
Man, like good advice, but certainly probably easier said than done, especially when you're a younger person, because it is tough.
It's very tough
to be that vulnerable when you're just new at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we always talk about challenges and problems in the industry. Where do you think are the real strengths and draws and good things about our community?
It's the people. It's this. It's guys like you and I who got connected through a social platform that are now sitting here, pulling the covers back, having a raw, honest, real conversation. People get it done. People are, in most cases, what motivate me to get up and every day, whether it's my family, whether I want to get up and be the best for them, or it's my team. I want to continue to help them grow. And I've got a young guy on my team now, 29 years old, and I'm just so happy to be leading him. He's got a 1-year-old kid, freshly married, and I just see such a great baseline for just such a tremendous life that he wants to build and live. And I see an opportunity to say, let me show you some of the things that I've learned the hard way and see if you can't learn those lessons a little easier and a little smoother than I did.
But what a gift that is, because you are that guy. The challenge is, not everyone, mentoring doesn't come naturally to everyone, unfortunately. And definitely not a criticism on them as a person. It doesn't come naturally to everyone. How is some of the mentors you've had, how have they influenced how you put your arms around young people?
Man, I wouldn't know half of what I know if they hadn't put their arms around me. And I think, it's hard. It's a hard thing to say. We all have limited time, limited resources in this world we're living in today. There's so many external pressures and stresses that, all I can say is you look up to those that that you want to look up to, and you find those that are willing to put the time into you. And most often, if you show the interest and you show the potential, there's going to be somebody out there that you can get your way to that is going to want to help mold that and refine that for you.
Sure. I've met those people too. They naturally seek out those future leaders and they grab them.
Yeah.
For sure. They drag them around. What else do we need to touch on before we part ways today?
Man, health, whether it's mental or whether it's physical, you know, I got a little health thing going on right now. Nothing major. Yeah. Went to the doctor. He says, you know, we got to get you general surgery. Well, general surgery in Alberta right now is 6 to 8 months. And I started researching a little private surgery option, $2,500, and you can be in there in a week. And, you know, I went home and I had a conversation with my wife and I said, I feel selfish spending our money this way when we have a healthcare system that should give that to me. And, you know, kudos to her. She looked at me and she said, are you kidding me? Like, you're not operating at your prime right now because of this. And you're the financial provider for this household. And $2,500 gets you back on track and takes this distraction out of your life and, like, prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
I know I've had this conversation with a few people and we can't understand how two-tier, private, whatever you want to call it, healthcare system, why it's such a divisive issue politically and socially and all that. Like, I just don't understand it because some people have talked to me about it in the past and said, oh yeah, it's kind of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, wait, like, so I've had someone very close to me, one of my parents, and so basically they went and got checked and it was a problem. So to get to the surgery and get to the, not just the surgery, to get to the MRI stage.
Yeah.
So we can find out whether there's a problem or not. And then, so that'll happen so quick because they went the private way. And I would say it saved his life.
Yep.
So it's very black and white for me. Like, if you have the opportunity to free up another space in that provincial process for someone who either doesn't have the resources or whatever, like, why wouldn't you do that? So I'm a huge advocate of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think, you know, but that also comes back to some of the mentors that I had that have said, like, prioritize yourself. And, you know, I recently, and I don't know what my future state looks like, but I recently gave up alcohol. And I didn't have a big problem. I was always a social drinker. But when I was going through my mental health journey, I took stock of, is this helping me? Or is it potentially hindering me? And in many cases, the only solution was, well, let's eliminate it for a certain period of time and find out. And for me, I found that, hey, you know what? It wasn't helping me. So therefore, it might have been hindering me a little bit. And my mental clarity and everything just got a little bit better, you know, and I found it easier to work on the exercise and eating right when I wasn't going and undoing all that with 6 or 8 beers on a Friday night. And, you know, it's hard to do
for sure
some days, but I think just taking stock of what's important and is this positively adding value or positively contributing to my life? Yes or no? And if not, then I really need to evaluate that.
Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, none of us should drink, period.
It's a poison.
Like, it's a no-brainer, but, you know, we used to talk about how ingrained it is in our industry in terms of, you know, whether it's Saturday night or the beers in the Foreman Shack and all this kind of stuff. And it's so much bigger than that. It's through society.
Absolutely.
Like, it is such a huge part of our culture. So to get away from it isn't easy. Again, I have a few people in my life who are in various stages of their sobriety journey, and everyone's did the same thing, whether they have to quit or not. Like, it's a no-brainer to quit. But again, some people struggled with that. My favorite story, a guy here in Calgary, one of the foremen, he told me, he said, okay, so we got up, I think it was last fall, we got up there in the late spring, and he said the January before, so say 4 or 5 months earlier, okay, I'm gonna stop drinking. Like, this is not okay in my life. So he's telling me this story, and he goes, I know we're not pipelining. We're not going out till June or July. So I got 6 months to get through that period and have it be part of my life. Well, he said, sure as shit, did I not get a call at the end of March? Okay, guys, we need you out there at the beginning of April. And he's like, oh, man, like I really wish I had a bit longer. And he goes, anyway, I get out there. And he goes, I'm an adult. Like, I'm not embarrassed to tell people I'm not drinking. Like, that wasn't on my radar. But he said, do you know what caught me off guard is how, when I got to the job, how supportive everyone was. And he said, like, that totally caught me off guard. So I told him, I was like, yeah, like it was a similar story to that a year earlier. The reason I started to make sure there's always non-alcoholic beers in the foreman shack, because it started with a helicopter pilot, and then it started making sure the warehouse guy got it in there, and they're disappearing just as fast as the other beers. Like it's a thing. There's something to it.
Yeah.
But again, it's still, addiction is still a huge issue in our industry, and I don't know how to shake that. Was there a situation in particular that made you want to stop, or was it simply the health?
I think it's just taking stock. And to your point, that growth and maturity, you get to a certain point. I don't know if it's because I'm in my 40s now and you start to get all philosophical, but it's like at the end of the day, just taking stock of what am I doing in my life and what is not helping me move forward to my goals. Mm-hmm. And, I was laughing 2 weeks ago. My boss is down at head office in Florida, and he came up, and I was anxious because I knew he likes to have a couple of beers, and I was like, I don't know how he's going to react when we go out. And I said, no, I'm not. I'll enjoy a few non-alcoholic beers all day long. And he actually came up and he says, no, I'm not drinking during the week anymore. Like I save a glass of wine or two for Friday night with the missus, but traveling for business, it got a little too habitual. Yeah. It's easy to get out of control. And man, what a weight I felt. I immediately felt supported by him and encouraged by him. And he asked me why. And I just said, I fail to see how it's positively adding value to my life and how it's helping me achieve my goals on the journey that I want to get to. And he's like, wow, like that's
powerful.
Yeah, it's well said. Like, it makes you think. And so,
but a lot of guys, unfortunately, they don't get to that realization. They get to the point where it's actually negatively impacting their life, whether their family or their professional life. So they are in a situation where they have to stop.
Yeah.
And I would never want to get to that stage myself. So you always kind of temper it. So I've never stopped drinking. Will I ever stop? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, do I have a lot more non-alcoholic beers in my fridge than I used to? For sure.
Well, and I might start again too. I don't know. I haven't.
Yeah.
It's one day at a time, and it's how I feel in the moment, and that's it.
Yeah. But even like our, in camp where you do a barbecue for the boys every now and again, and there didn't always used to be these coolers full of mocktails and non beers and stuff, and now we have so many people that choose not to drink. We want to make it as convenient and easy as possible. Yeah. So we make sure that cooler is loaded with cold, whether it's the Heinekens, the Coronas, there's so many great non-alcoholic beers now.
Yeah.
And to make sure that is an option available to guys. And again, like I'm watching it from a distance and going, okay, awesome. So people may or may not be drinking for whatever reason, but those things are disappearing. That makes me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's good.
Well, Dust, I won't keep you any longer, Matt. I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I don't know who listens to these always, but we always put it out there in the hopes that, something that was said today, maybe someone need to hear it.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for everything that you do. Keep being an advocate and keep being a voice. Just from somebody that 3 years ago we didn't know each other, your voice is getting out there. And it means something. That. It's hitting people and it means something. And you were a positive, motivating factor in my mental health journey. And I think it's important that you hear that. And
thank you, Dustin.
Keep being an advocate. We all appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
So
until next time.
Yeah, for sure.